Have you ever felt it? A deep humming of unease, not of the body, but of the spirit. You live in a world of endless connection, yet feel a profound sense of separation, a world of ceaseless noise that leaves a vast silence inside. You are told this is the nature of life, a struggle, a race, a series of problems to be solved. But a quiet voice within you, a voice older than words, whispers that this is not the truth. It whispers of a forgotten wholeness, of a time before the fragmentation. This unease is not a sign of brokenness. It is a call, the first stirrings of the spirit waking from a long slumber. It is the memory of a vast, calm ocean, even as you are tossed by the waves. Today, I invite you not to silence this voice, but to listen to it. I invite you to walk a path inward, to the quiet center, where all true knowing resides. Let us journey together and explore a truth not written in history books, but whispered on the wind and held in the memory of the earth itself. Ancient wisdom, passed down not in ink but in breath, speaks of a time when our existence was different. Imagine the human spirit not as a divided self, but as a single, calm lake, perfectly still, reflecting the entire cosmos, one whole, complete being, containing all that was needed. Communication was not done through the friction of words, but as a flow, heart to heart, a current of pure understanding. There was no separation, and so there was no conflict. There was only harmony, a silent song between humanity, the earth, and the great mystery. We were in communion with the source, but the old stories say that into this calm lake, stones were cast. Forces arrived, not with chariots and swords in a way we would understand, but with a more subtle power. The power to reshape consciousness itself. The lineage keepers say they did not conquer our lands, but our inner landscape. They are spoken of as the architects of division. Their first act was to take the single, whole human being and break it in two, to create man and to create woman. And with this split, need was born, desire was born, the endless search for a missing half outside of oneself. They introduced duality into the garden of our soul, the very soil in which all our love and all our sorrow now grows. Then they gave us a gift that was also a cage. They gave us spoken language. This may seem like a great advancement, but in my tradition, we understand that which connects can also separate. Before words, there was direct knowing. Imagine a river flowing unimpeded to the sea. That was our connection. Words are like dams. They hold back the flow. They create the possibility of misunderstanding, of deceit, of the lie. With words, the direct communion of minds was severed. Confusion could be sown. Conflict could settle in our hearts. The architects found this very useful. The storytellers say they put this new, confused humanity to work, forcing them to dig in the earth for shiny metals. Does this not sound familiar? A humanity created or altered to serve masters it does not understand. The sacred texts of many lands hint at this. A time when humanity was united and sought to reach the heavens, and a God came down not to praise them, but to scatter them, to confuse their tongues so they could no longer understand one another. Was it a punishment from a loving creator, or was it the deliberate act of a force that feared our unity, a very real external manipulation? These forces were not myths. They were not simply archetypes of the mind. The elders who hold this knowledge speak of them as real beings, beings with a technology we would not recognize, for it was a technology of consciousness. And they had a clear purpose, to keep the human spirit in a state of sleep. They taught us to kneel, to obey, to accept authority from without, instead of listening to the authority from within. They gave us hierarchies. They gave us rigid religions. They gave us kings. All these things are structures, containers, designed to hold us, to limit our natural, flowing state. The elders warn that since that time, we have lived under a spell, a waking dream that keeps us divided, confused, and disconnected from our own boundless power. But there is a deeper, more unsettling layer to this tale. The wise ones say these forces feed, not on our bodies but on our energy, the raw force of our emotions. When a mind or many minds vibrate with fear, with suffering, with anger, with chaos, a certain energy is generated, a kind of food. Our lineages have different names for it. The Gnostics spoke of the archons, who sought to trap souls in the dense world of matter. Other traditions speak of an emotional energy, a flourish, harvested from humanity like a crop. Think of it like this: your spirit is a bright, clear flame, but fear and anger and despair are a thick black smoke. These entities, these architects, learn to breathe this smoke. And so, it is in their interest to keep the fires of human suffering burning. The most disturbing part of this teaching is this: they never left. They simply changed their masks. Their methods became more subtle. They continue to operate, not from shining ships in the sky, but from invisible planes, from the shadows behind our own systems. The seats of power, the great institutions, the hidden structures that govern our world. We will touch on this more. This is not one isolated story from one corner of the earth. If you listen closely, you can hear its echo across the world. Travel far from the southern lands of Africa to the deserts of Mali. Here, an ancient people, the Dogon, have guarded a knowledge that startles the modern mind. For generations, they have told myths of teachers who came from the sky. They spoke of the star system of Sirius and of a companion star, invisible to the naked eye. They knew of this star long before Western science, with its powerful telescopes, confirmed its existence. How? They say their teachers told them. Teachers they depict as amphibious, coming from a great ark that landed on Earth. Their purpose was to bring knowledge, but stories of great teachers from the stars are always double-edged. This is a global pattern. In the Americas, the Hopi people speak of the Kachinas, spiritual beings from the sky who guided the first humans. But they also left great warnings about cycles of corruption if humanity forgets its spiritual path. In ancient Sumeria, their tablets describe the Anunnaki, gods who created humanity, not as an act of love, but to be their workforce, a race of servants. Even in the well-known holy books, if you read them with new eyes, you see this pattern. A God who is often jealous, who demands blind obedience, who punishes and divides. Is this the vibration of a boundless, loving source? Or is it the signature of a celestial landlord? Different cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, all telling fragmented parts of the same forgotten story. A story of humanity intervened upon, manipulated, and cut off from its true source. It begins to feel less like a collection of myths and more like a set of clues to a puzzle we are only now beginning to piece together. Certain traditions say these entities did not vanish with the ancient world. They simply became more clever. They wove themselves into the fabric of our world. They operate through bloodlines, through hidden dynasties that have held power for centuries. You have heard of blue blood, the claim of royal purity. What if it is not merely a symbol? What if certain elite families, generation after generation, carry a different resonance, a direct lineage back to those who first altered our path? How do they operate today? Not with thunderbolts from the heavens, but with quieter weapons, orchestrated wars, financial crises that spread like a plague, waves of fear propagated through media, and their greatest tool, their most sacred art, division. They polarize us, black against white, left against right, nation against nation. When we are fighting each other, we are not looking at the hand that moves the pieces on the board. When we live in fear, in anxiety, in states of survival, our vibration is low, our energy field is contracted, and in that state, we are easily controlled. In the past, this was done through rigid dogma and religion. Then came a great new instrument of control, the mass media, a single narrative, repeated over and over, until it felt like reality. A constant drumbeat of fear as a tool of governance. But their most powerful tool came recently: social media, the hall of mirrors. With this, they no longer need to impose a narrative. We build our own prisons, cell by cell, with every click, with every like. We hand over our attention, our emotions, our thoughts freely. And this tool has fragmented us completely. Our attention is shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces. We live in a permanent state of agitation, always reacting, never resting. The result is not unity, not collaboration. The result is noise, distraction, a deep and profound loneliness. And that is how the control continues. When we are not at peace, when we are divided against each other and against ourselves, we remain asleep. This knowledge can feel heavy, it can feel dark. But this is where the path of the warrior begins. This information is not a prison, it is a key. Its purpose is not to lead to despair. It is to help you see the nature of the game you are in. Imagine you are in a vast, holographic simulation, a kind of dream. When you realize it is a dream, you gain power over it. The dream loses its hold on you. I ask you to consider, what if your soul chose this? What if, before you came here, you decided to enter this great maze of forgetting, simply for the challenge of remembering, for the profound joy of finding your way back to the truth? When you begin to feel this resonance, a great shift occurs. The external world begins to lose its weight. You begin to understand who you truly are, and you begin to understand how to free yourself from the forces that seek to drain your energy. Then you begin to truly live. The path of true rebellion, then, is reunification. If you observe the pattern of these forces, the trick is always the same: divide, fragment, confuse, weaken. Therefore, the most revolutionary act you can take is to do the opposite, to bring things together. The true rebellion is to reclaim your attention, to make it sovereign, to choose where it rests. In a world that screams for division, you must choose unity, not only with others, with those who walk a similar path, but first and most importantly, with yourself, internal unity. Because the primary attack is not on our communities, but on our own inner connection. They seek to divide mind from body, soul from spirit, energy from intention. But when you realign these parts, when your body, mind, and spirit once again flow together as one river, everything changes. You return to your original state, a complete, conscious and free being. And then you understand. The war was never for your money or your job. The war has always been for your attention, for your soul. And that is where your power lies. In that quiet center within you, a place no algorithm can map, a kingdom no empire can conquer, your direct connection to the source. So how do we begin this return to the center? How do we recover our energy in a world designed to drain it? The true revolution starts with small, powerful steps. The first is to disconnect, to create silence, to turn off the machines that are designed not to inform you, but to fragment you. Return to the natural, a living diet, one that nourishes the body and calms the mind, raising your vibration. And I do not only speak of food for the mouth. Choose what you read, what you listen to, what you watch. Choose what energies you allow into your temple. For we are all creators, and what we nourish within ourselves is what will bloom in our outer world. Breathe. So simple, yet we have forgotten. The deep, conscious breath is a tool refined for millennia by the sages. It does more than bring you to the present moment. It unblocks your life force. It allows prana, the energy of all existence, to flow freely once again. Meditate, not to escape the world, but to return to yourself, to observe, to quiet the storm of the outside so you can hear the whisper of your own spirit. In that silence, a clarity arises that is not born of thinking, but of connection. Walk, move the body, dance. The body is the temple. When we allow it to stagnate, our energy stagnates with it. Movement awakens. Movement centers. These are ancient habits. Nutrition, breath, meditation, presence. It is not enough to know of them. They must be lived, day after day, for it is in the practice that the transformation occurs. Go into nature. Feel the earth under your feet. Listen to the wind. There are no algorithms there, only truth. Nature deprograms us. It returns us to the original pulse of life. In these spaces of quiet, you can finally ask the real questions. From where am I acting? From my center, my true self? Or from a program of fear or habit? This self-observation, this inner listening is the path. Step by step, we reclaim what was taken. The sovereignty of our attention, the wholeness of our being, the sacred energy that is our birthright. Thank you for walking this path with me today. I hope this sharing has served you. May you find your way back to your center